People across the province who are preparing for another nice summer weekend won't be able to buy booze at their local LCBOs. More than 9,000 workers walked off the job at midnight after talks broke down between the union and their employer yesterday. Mike Crawley has been following the developments. He joins us now from Queen's Park. Mike, take us through how we got here and why this strike happened.
It's a really good question because this is pretty monumental. In history, it's the first strike in the nearly 100-year history of the LCBO. So why did it happen this time when all the times previously the LCBO and the union was always able to come to a collective agreement? Well, if you ask the union, it's all about the Premier Doug Ford government's plans for the expansion of alcohol sales to a whole bunch of other locations. 8,000 convenience stores are going to get the chance to sell beer, wine, and those ready-to-drink cocktails starting in the fall. And the union says it's particularly concerned about the impact on job security. They figure if you got a bunch of people buying their booze at places other than the LCBO, that's going to have an impact on customer traffic at the LCBO and on government revenues. Here's the president of the Ontario Public Sector Employees Union.
We're talking about $2.5 billion in revenue that would disappear from public health care and education and go into private corporations. We're not talking about mom and pop shops. We're talking about Costco, Loblaws, giant grocery chains, giant convenience store chains. If this was about, corner store beer, that'd be one thing. But I think that what we're seeing is an attempt to move profit from the public and into the private sphere.
Now, the union says they're not opposed to making alcohol sales more convenient for Ontarians, but what they are saying is that they had a plan to try to do that through an expansion of the LCBO so that there would be union jobs and money coming directly into government coffers through that expansion.
So, Mike, we heard from the union there. What is the LCBO and the province's perspective on this?
Well, as you might expect, they are pointing the fingers at the union for the breakdown in negotiations. The LCBO actually went through the steps of making public some of the details about the offer that they tabled to the union yesterday afternoon, a little after 4 o'clock. We could take a look at what's in the wage offer. You'll see that there's a 2.5% and 2% wage increases proposed over a 3-year deal, and a couple of other highlights, not a lot of details on this, but the LCBO says it would allow for a transition of about 400 employees from casual status to full-time permanent status. You should know that about 70% of the LCBO workers are casual, which means that they don't have necessarily the full level of hours or the job security that permanent staff would have. The union was also asking for some stuff related to severance pay. The LCBO says it proposed an increase in severance pay. No specifics about what that increase would be. One other note about the messaging coming from the government and the LCBO about the breakdown in talks. They blamed, in particular, the union's focus on those ready-to-drink cocktails, things like White Claw, which are only available right now at the LCBO, and the government wants to allow those to be sold at convenience stores.
So that seems to be a big sticking point here. Mike, why is this such a big issue in these talks?
So from the perspective of the union, it's because those drinks, which are right now only sold at the LCBO, you can't get them in the grocery store, they make up 9% of LCBO's revenue. So their concern is that this would be hundreds of millions of dollars annually that becomes more accessible to the private sector.
So if people are looking to buy alcohol this weekend, Mike, what options do they have?
Well, that's going to be one of the really interesting things to see about this strike, because the union in some ways has a little less leverage than they did before you had the availability of alcohol in a bunch of different places. So supermarkets that sell beer and wine, you can buy there. Those aren't closing. The beer store remains open. And in rural areas around Ontario, those little LCBO convenience outlets, those remain open. Those aren't staffed by unionized LCBO workers.
Our senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley. Thank you, Mike.